What's going on, guys? I'm back from San Diego Comic-Con. So this is going to be a video detailing my experience at San Diego Comic-Con. I want to give you guys in-depth details about my experience at Comic-Con. If you've never been to San Diego Comic-Con, what it's like. So sit back, enjoy the next 30 to 40 so minutes, maybe even longer. I'll tell you exactly what the experience brings because it is definitely a lot of fun. And this is the first time I had been since 2019. So I didn't really remember anything. I just remember the convention center being really huge. I remember there being stuff outside of the convention center. I don't remember there being that much. And I never sat through the Marvel panel before in 2019. We left before the Marvel panel was there because we got in as press in 2019, but we didn't realize that there was a separate press line to get into Hall H. So, with that, let me take you through my experience at San Diego Comic-Con, starting with day one, preview night. So as members of the press, we had advance passes to look at Paramount Plus's The Lodge, which was a 1 hour time slot, and I guess it was something that was happening last year, and they brought it back for this year. It looked amazing. Crazy how they could transform restaurants and bars into venues for San Diego Comic-Con, because that's what this was. As press, you had an hour to explore the lodge, and there were some really, really cool things. When you walk in, you are in sort of a hub with a counter for creating your own Star Trek shirts, which I was about to do, but I kind of wanted my own Comic-Con shirt, or if there was a station inside the exhibit hall where they had make your own t-shirts like they did at New York Comic-Con, I was going to do that, but unfortunately they didn't, so I had to go to the store and get my own Comic-Con shirt in the Marriott's down the hill from the convention center. To the left of that was a bar area that had some really cool features, like a photo booth from the movie If, that made me and my fellow content creators, Larry Chilson, mainly movies, we were able to take a picture at. A really cool Dexter display to the left when you walk in, and a Criminal Minds wall where you could put post-it notes on a whiteboard tracing evidence and crime scenes. In that brief moment, I felt like I was a detective from a movie piecing everything together. One experience I didn't like here in the lodge was the Ghosts experience. Man, what a waste of time. The Paramount Plus rep was billing it as an interactive experience, and all the whole thing was trying out different colognes. I understand that it's a restaurant and bar that you are renting space from, and space can be very limited because of that, but the space that was used for Ghosts should have been used for something more worthwhile, I think. There's definitely other parts of the lodge to explore, so back in another part of the lodge, we went back to the Ninja Turtles area of the lodge, and I found this to be really impressive. With press preview, you are given 2 free complimentary drinks and a complimentary side of pizza. And I like that they tied the pizza into the Ninja Turtles aspect, since my boys, the Turtles, love pizza. Love this old school Ninja Turtles arcade game that they had in here, and after this we were told our hour was up and we headed to the convention center to experience the floor. Man, after not having been here for 5 years, I totally forgot how insanely huge this place is. But it was a total joy and blast, especially seeing all the Star Wars and Marvel costumes on display. But of course, it's overwhelming trying to navigate this entire thing. But once you get your bearings, though, it's pretty self-explanatory and it's pretty easy to navigate. It's just people walk slow because there's so many people in there, and you kind of get frustrated when people walk slow because you're trying to get from one spot to another spot, and it can be daunting at times, and it can be frustrating, and you can just mutter under your breath, move out, motherfucker. But once you get your bearings, it's like an easy walk through the park. After preview night, we headed back to the Airbnb since there were 4 of us, and we had to figure out sleeping arrangements since there were only 3 spots to sleep. I was so tired, I fell asleep on the floor, started sleepwalking circles until I fell asleep on the couch, and we purchased an air mattress. But lo and behold, you need a damn pump. So we bought one, but it was a car pump. So I stayed in the spot. I eventually fell asleep. Larry and Dwayne shared a bed, and Alyssa took another couch. Next up was Thursday, day 2, and this is where we were checking out the Hulu Animahem booth, the Hulu Fox stuff, and that was outside of the convention center. That was in the back of the convention center. They have space in the back of the convention center outside towards like the harbor. I think there's like the IMDb boat there too. There's something else going on out there. They have all sorts of stuff around the convention center as well. Like I said, they had a Those About to Die thing right outside of it. There was a Hard Rock Cafe dressed as SpongeBob, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And then in the back of the convention center, they have even more stuff. So this is where Hulu Animation was. This is where the FX thing was. This is where the IMDb boat was. I didn't check out the IMDb boat. I wish I did, because there were a lot of celebrities there. And my friend Larry got some pictures, I think with Jennifer Tilly and Morfred Clark from Rings of Power and Saint Maud. So there were definitely a lot of celebrities there. He said he saw Sarah Michelle Gellar as well, but I didn't check it out. It's just not my thing, but next time I go, maybe I'll check it out, because then I'll try and get some pictures with celebrities. But we checked out the Hulu Animation booth, Hulu Animehem. And day 2, technically day 1, started with this bang, as we were able to attend the Hulu Animehem, and to be honest, this was a massive highlight, and what I was expecting more out of from the lodge. This was an expansive area that was well used, and a huge interactive area as well, with everything from The Simpsons, Futurama, Family Guy was there, American Dad, Bob's Burgers, you name it, everything. You were able to try a donut inspired by The Simpsons, and my friends and I even did a little dance video to a Bob's Burgers song.
Hot pants, rain dance, get out there and take a chance. Hot pants, rain dance, get out there and shake your pants. Hot pants, rain dance, get out there and take a chance. Hot pants, rain dance, get out there and shake your pants.
We got to try green lemonade, which was way better than the donuts. All in all, this was a fantastic experience with space well used. The way I equated it is that it really felt like we were in a small amusement park, just minus the rides, but bigger than a carnival or a fair. I hope this is something that Comic-Con keeps, because this was a lot of fun, even if the sweltering California sun was beating down on us. And then we headed into the exhibit hall, got into the press line for Hall H, our first Hall H panel of the con, Transformers 1. Thank God we had press badges, so we didn't have to wait in that long-ass line. We were able to score pretty good seats. I can't say much about what footage they showed for the film, but let me say that if you were super underwhelmed with the first trailer, like me, the footage they showed, which was 3 clips from the film, that eased my concerns with the film, because that looks fantastic. The animation was swift and fluid, and the voice acting sounds really good. Couple this with a new trailer that was loads better than the first one. This was a great way to start the panels at Hall H. And just on a side note, it was surreal just to be in the same room and breathing the same oxygen and air as somebody like Chris Hemsworth or Brian Tyree Henry, even though they were at a distance, and they felt oh so close. And the selfie Brian Tyree Henry and Keegan-Michael Key took with us was really, really cool. Not us, not us 4, but like the entire Hall H crowd. Yeah, no, we're not that cool. I can confirm a couple things about the movie though. I can confirm a couple of voice actors that I don't think were previously announced, as they are Lawrence Fishburne and Steve Buscemi. After this panel, we went our separate ways, and I went to a panel that covered the visual effects for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. This was in a completely different room. This wasn't in Hall H. This was in, I think, a ballroom, or like in one of the meeting rooms, and this was something that was on my radar because I love Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I know some people are probably think it's the weakest. It is definitely the weakest of the 4 movies that have been released, but I can't wait to see where they go from here. They still keep cranking out great Planet of the Apes movies. The future should be bright for this franchise. So they had the whole cast there. They had Owen Teague, Kevin Durand, Freya Allen, Peter Macon, and I think a couple of the visual effects artists. I definitely wanted to stay in Hall H for SpongeBob, but for some reason they were kicking everyone out. I'll talk more about the staff and security at the end of the video, because I think it is something that has to be addressed. But once I learned something yesterday, because I waited a few days to do this video because I was just so tired, so jet lagged, that I was just like, I just need some time before I do this video. So once I found out something about what happened at Comic-Con, I could kind of see why security was tight, and staff was kind of a little bit on the tighter side as well. But still, man, it was kind of a pain in the ass, but I'll talk about that at the end, because I got a damn bone to pick. But I was always on the fence about attending the Hall H SpongeBob panel anyways, and had a Planet of the Apes panel on the schedule in case I didn't want to do SpongeBob. So I headed over there for that panel. This was a cool panel since Owen Teague, Freya Allen, Kevin Durand, and Peter Macon from the cast, plus the visual effects directors and supervisors were there. While this panel was great, it was also one of the worst things I ever experienced at a convention or in life. This experience had nothing to do with the content being presented or any of the cast members. Just all of a sudden, some random drunk, probably a drunk fool, started shouting F-bombs at the cast, got cornered and tackled by security, was yelling at them to stop touching him, blabbing about his human rights and how he wasn't an ape. I just remember the guy going, "I'm fucking gorilla!" And I'm like, what sparked all this, man? But learning about what happened, I'm pretty sure I know what it was about. I didn't film the incident nor take any pictures of the incident, but if you had seen the look on the entire cast and visual effects crew's faces, particularly Freya Allen, it was probably the most shocking thing they've ever seen, and certainly I've ever seen at a convention like this. I had been telling myself in my head all weekend about wondering if any attendees were ever lashed out at panels, or if anybody tried to argue or fight with panelists, and I guess I finally got my answer. Crazy though that I had the mere thought of thinking something stupid like that would happen at a panel, and it did. And it was almost just about time to wrap up the day. There weren't any other panels for the day of interest to me, but I had some time to kill while I waited for my friends, so I decided to check out more of the exhibit hall, and I got my 2024 Comic-Con shirt that I had so desperately wanted since landing. I even got selfies with a Wolverine cosplayer and a Deadpool cosplayer who had me convinced he was actually Ryan Reynolds, and that was it for the day, as we headed back to the Airbnb to prepare for Deadpool and Wolverine. Yes, I saw Deadpool and Wolverine while I was there. That's why the review for Deadpool and Wolverine was really late. That's why it is in such poor quality, because I didn't bring any of my recording equipment to San Diego with me. I went raw dog. I went without a microphone, went without trying to change the sound. It sounded awful, and I apologize that that review sounds like that, but when you're traveling, I'm not taking all that stuff with me, because airlines have a weight limit for your bags. I'm not paying the extra $100 to $150 to lug equipment around when I already have clothes in my bag. I always pack light anyways. I'm just like, do I really need to bring this? I really didn't. Before I talk about my experience with the movie, I just want to say that this movie couldn't have been released at a more perfect time. There's a reason this was released during the weekend of Comic-Con, since everyone has Deadpool shirts, Wolverine shirts, Deadpool and Wolverine shirts, and everyone was cosplaying as either Deadpool or Wolverine. It also helps that they screened this movie in Hall H for everyone who could get in on a lottery, which was baffling. So we didn't watch it in Hall H. We watched it in an actual movie theater. That was the stupidest thing you could ever do with Hall H. On a lottery, you were literally checking 6,000 names off of a piece of paper. That's just insanity to me. But we saw the movie at a theater in Mission Valley with a sold-out crowd, and man, I love large crowds at theaters like this, because when everyone is hooting and hollering, it really makes the experience so much more meaningful and fun, and that's exactly what happened here. I had a lot of fun with this movie, while it is a bit of a mess. Full review should be up on my channel, if not now, then soon. It is. No spoilers, of course. But crowds like that make event movies like this just so much more fun. Just a great atmosphere all around, overall, with that movie. We did see it in standard. We didn't see it in Dolby or IMAX, so we did have a hard time catching up with some of the dialogue and not being able to hear some of the dialogue. I did see it again in Dolby. I liked it a lot more. Dolby made the experience worthwhile. I saw it when I got back here, but at the same time, the crowd wasn't into it. I don't know what it is with these people born in like 2012. Educate them on old superhero movies. Then it was off for day 3. Day 3, I had a Star Wars panel planned in the morning, but of course the lines don't work the way that they probably should. I'll address that at the end of this video as well. So I missed the panel for Star Wars, and by that time it was close to 11 o'clock in the afternoon, California time, and by this time it was nearly enough time where restaurants were starting to open for lunch. And whether it was by myself or with my group of friends, I had wanted to venture to one of these in the Gaslamp district anyways. I got to a SpongeBob-themed restaurant called Goofy Goober Grub, which was the Hard Rock, just rebranded and redecorated for Comic-Con, just for this occasion. I really liked the vibes, the color, the fact that the bar TVs were actually playing SpongeBob episodes. It was really cool. The SpongeBob themed placemat was really cool too, and it gave you a chance to really test your SpongeBob trivia knowledge. And big reason why they were doing this, and the big reason why I think I had mentioned that SpongeBob panel earlier, was that it's the 25th anniversary of SpongeBob this year. So that's why they had a big Hall H panel. That's why the Hard Rock Cafe was decorated as SpongeBob stuff. It was really cool stuff, honestly. Like, I was actually really impressed. In terms of the food, well, I'm not a food critic, so whatever I order, as long as I can eat it, then I'm satisfied. I'm not high-end, nor am I asking for top-notch food. Give me something to eat that's edible, and once I'm done, I'll be on my merry way. Then at 2 p.m. we had a panel called Collider Ladies Night. So this is the Collider Ladies Night live. It's hosted by Perry Nemiroff. This was a fun panel. Erica Henningsen from Has Been Hotel, Katie O'Brien, and Melissa Barrera were there as guests. And despite not being in anything together, these three lovely actresses had this playful, sisterly bond to them that really made the panel even more worthwhile than it already was, and gave some spark and energy to the room. I loved hearing about how all three of these women got their start and how we got some news on some of their projects. Your Monster with Melissa Barrera is coming soon to theaters. Katie O'Brien is starring in Twisters. We got to see some clips from Twisters as well. If you haven't seen Twisters, I already knew what was coming because I had seen Twisters. And Erica Henningsen has confirmed a 3rd and 4th season of Has Been Hotel. Don't know if season 2 is out. I think they finished season 2 if it's not out yet. I could be wrong, but she definitely confirmed that there's going to be a 3 and a 4. Overall, that was a really, really good panel with great questions from Perry. I feel like Perry Nemiroff is kind of like one of those moderators for a panel where it's like, yeah, she kind of has this complex nature to her questions that you kind of have to really, really think about. And that's what makes her questions so brilliant, is that they're really, really great questions. And all three of the actresses did a really good job answering those, because I would not know how to answer any of Perry Nemiroff's questions. That's how great of a moderator she is. Then we went back into Hall H, which we had to wait in line for because, you know, the other guy from Collider, Steve, I don't know, man. We were trying to catch the Alien panel, but of course with Hall H, you have to sit through panels to get to panels you want to see, and I'll explain more about this process later. This director on director panel was Antoine Fuqua and Roland Emmerich, which is such an odd, bizarre pairing, and legitimately and honestly, this panel was awful and bordered on sucking. This is by far the worst panel the con had to offer. I've never liked Steve Weintraub from Collider, and man, what a rude and condescending man. What an awful way to start off a panel. I don't really mean to name drop. I shouldn't name drop because it is part of my industry, but like, I just have to. I mean, I know I shouldn't. I know that's rude to do, but man, what an awful way to start a panel. You ask for a chair and you don't start the panel until you get a chair? God damn it, man. Like, why was this panel in Hall H? I did like listening to Antoine Fuqua, but every time Roland Emmerich spoke, he was putting me to sleep, and I felt like I was losing brain cells listening to this guy. Also, I was not impressed with him at all, and the fact he's a supporter of AI to replace actors is a major, major, major concern. He admitted it live on stage. I was there. What the fuck, Roland Emmerich? That is tone deaf, if you ask me. I understand that English is his second language, but I could not stand to listen to him babble anymore to try and give 10,000 BC the flexes it definitely doesn't deserve. Did speak a lot about The Patriot though, and that was when I was actually locked in on him, because The Patriot is one of my favorite films, so no complaints there when he was talking about that. I just don't understand why this was a panel that had to be in Hall H. This is more of a smaller meeting room panel, and I'm thinking this was in Hall H because of all the egos involved, probably. Antoine Fuqua, though, is innocent from the equation. I liked listening to him. He definitely had some really interesting stories about Training Day, how he got his start, how he was making the Equalizer movies with Denzel, his relationship with Denzel. So that was really interesting. He was a joy to watch. But Roland Emmerich put me to sleep, and I can never forgive him for supporting AI like that. And Steve Weintraub's just a horrible, horrible moderator. So after that panel, we stayed in Hall H for what was at that point the best panel of the entire weekend, and that was for Alien Romulus. Before the panel started, I loved how they had smoke machines and dimmed the lights to the red color to match the color of the poster. And the footage we saw was fantastic, and I hope the movie lives up to the potential that those awesome clips showed. I can't really describe those clips, they're kind of spoilery. They even said that they had to edit some stuff out of the clips, so the clips were even edited around so that they didn't spoil anything for us. So I'm definitely gonna recognize some parts of the movie when I go see the movie in a couple weeks, but there's probably going to be some things in the movie, in those parts of the movie, that weren't there in these clips that we were watching. And I'll be like, oh, that's new, so that's going to be interesting to see. I'm really curious to see. I think Romulus looks great. But with that being said, I will share a little tidbits as to what I saw. So not to spoil anything, these clips showed footage of a facehugger and an army of facehuggers. The other clip was a scene with Isabella Merced and another character dealing with a chest burster that was also really rad. That's all I'll say about the clips. I'm curious to still find out once the movie is released if this will be closer in tone to Alien or Aliens. There was a lot of speculation that this panel would be a screening of the movie, and when it first started with video footage without anybody coming out, right at 5:15, it just started with video footage. I was like, it's the movie! And it wasn't the movie. I really thought that it was the movie at first, until that first footage they showed us was edited like a trailer. And I had hopes that when Fede Alvarez asked if we wanted to see some clips from the movie, that it would be the actual movie itself, especially since it was the final panel of the day. I wasn't disappointed in that though, since that is essentially wishful thinking, and since they showed Deadpool and Wolverine the day before, it didn't really make that much sense to show two movies 2 days in a row. And somebody else that we had met up with said that they're like, they won't do that 2 days in a row. They definitely won't. They'd have to do what they did with Deadpool and Wolverine, do a lottery. 2 days in a row of screenings would have been nuts. What made this panel stand out though was the interruption of a caution warning that facehuggers were running rampant on the floor. They had animatronic facehuggers going through the aisles trying to get you, with people laughing and freaking out. What a good marketing ploy. And then we were able to secure facehugger masks they were passing out to all Hall H attendees. I cannot wait to scare people with this at Halloween. And here's me and my friend with the facehuggers on our face. Honestly, when the panels change it up and do something interactive like that in a Hall H panel, I am absolutely sold. Loved everything this panel had to offer, but poor Isabella Merced had to field a Madam Web question from an audience member. She at least got to dunk on the film a little bit more, so that was good. I cannot wait to see what Alien Romulus has to offer on the big screen. While I would have loved a capper to the prequel trilogy between Prometheus and Covenant, like something that wraps the Prometheus and Covenant story up, at this point I'll take what I can get with Alien. Loved all the footage and the clips they showed us, so I hope that when the movie is released it lives up to the hype. And here we go, on to day 4, the big day in Hall H, Saturday. Day 4 was Marvel Day. On days like today when Marvel has the panel, you gotta plan to camp out in Hall H all day. Here's why I'll explain why you gotta do this for Hall H, because here's how Hall H works. Hall H is essentially a first come, first served basis, in case you're not sure how it works. So once you're in Hall H, there's no getting out unless you have a re-entry pass. And if you don't have the re-entry pass, or if you get the re-entry pass and you don't return to Hall H within the time frame that is specified on the re-entry pass, you're screwed. You have to go to the back of the line for Hall H, which essentially on a Marvel Day, which is always a Saturday and is the Marvel panel's always at night, you're not getting in. That Hall H line is so long that it goes all the way to the Hilton. So if you are a member of the general public and you want to try and get into the Marvel panel on Saturday, you have to have a large group with you. And you have to have members of that group camp out in line from like Wednesday to get in on Thursday, and you just have to keep switching places. Even with a press badge, which I had, you weren't even guaranteed a great seat, but you can at least get a decent seat, which we were able to secure. But even with this line, you have to camp. But luckily, if you get in there early in the morning like we did, you do get a decent seat. So, I mean, if you're one of the first people in that line for Hall H, like the way that they were working it was that they didn't let us press members in first. They let some of the general public in first because they knew that some of the general public was camping out. So they let them in, and then they let us in, and then they let the rest of the general public that were waiting in line in to fill in the seats, because essentially what they try to do is the Hall H can hold about 6,000 people, so they want to try and fill as many seats as you can. They also have another area for press by the stage called the cage, which I was kind of tempted to do, but at the same time, you were only allowed one bathroom pass, and I feel like once you leave, you couldn't get out. So I had since it's a day where you spend all day in there, if that was the case, you couldn't go to get food, you couldn't go to get drinks. I probably wouldn't get drinks anyway because I would just be drinking Gatorade and be pissing all day. So it wasn't worth it to me. I thought that was really, really odd. But here's the thing, if you're there all day, just take a nap like I did or get a picture with people like Adam Hlavik. Well, Hall H was a lot of fun, and honestly, while it is a long and tiring day, once the panels begin, it actually goes by at a decent pace. This maybe could have been because the panels were of or some interest to me, like Superman and Lois, even though I don't watch the show. There was a Berserker panel, which was Keanu's new comic book series, which, side note, I love how Keanu is like the biggest nerd ever. He's one of us, and it's amazing. Star Trek was definitely the longest panel because they had so much to cover, and while I'm not a Trekkie and have a moderate interest in the franchise, what they showed was pretty cool for all the different shows, in a new movie for Paramount Plus called Section 31 that looks really fucking good. Though I have seen some people say it doesn't look good because it doesn't look like Star Trek, and it doesn't. I don't know, but we'll see how this thing pans out. I don't know why there would be a Star Trek movie released on Paramount Plus. Like, I get that Paramount Plus needs its content, but I feel like Star Trek's big enough where you can release it in theaters and it'll still make a decent amount of money. So I don't know why it's not being released in theaters. Then it was the panel for the Penguin. We were there for the Penguin too because that was right before Marvel. So we were like, if we can get in for the Penguin and Marvel, we're good to go. During the panel for the Penguin, they didn't really say or show much for that. Matt Reeves did confirm that it is being released on September 19th. Filming for the Batman Part 2 begins next year. And that's really it. We got a new trailer for the Penguin. It looks cool. It looks like another like crime thriller. I know it's not going to be action heavy, so I'm not going to go into that show expecting it to be action heavy. It's going to be more, I think, towards the lines of like The Godfather, or what we saw in the Batman, where it's investigative crime, more crime kind of happens, a couple of action scenes here and there. There might be like a big bombastic action sequence like the car chase in that movie, but it's definitely going to focus more on crime. It's going to be more of a crime thriller. It's not going to be an action show, so don't expect that from the Penguin. And it was cool. Colin Farrell was there, but he wasn't there. He was also I think he was in like Ireland or something. He was there virtually. He wasn't like physically like present, but he was talking. He was on a giant screen. He was there. He could hear everybody. He could see everybody. I think he was filming something, or he was just back home in Ireland. It was cool seeing him on the giant screen and hearing his stories. He and Matt Reeves talk a lot. I'm like, guys, can you let anybody else talk? But it was really nice to see Colin Farrell. And since I am talking about Saturday, the last panel was the big guns. Yes, I was in there for Marvel, and while I've spilled some details about things the other panels have done, this is it. This is the one I'll probably spend the most time talking about. It started with a small Deadpool parade and a celebration of Deadpool and Wolverine's record-breaking weekend at the box office, with many costumes that only belong in a Deadpool part of a panel. So after that parade, Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige came on stage, and he wastes no time. This man gets right into it. He just says, "Hey, how are you, Hall H? Okay, here's what we got going on." Essentially, yeah, that's literally how he began the panel. Like, quote unquote verbatim. He starts to do everything Marvel has planned immediately in what feels like rapid fire succession. Instead of announcing a whole slate of films, the focus here after the Deadpool parade was to show us some things from the upcoming 2025 Marvel movies. And first up was Captain America Brave New World, with an extended trailer and some new behind the scenes footage I unfortunately cannot show you or really describe since recording of the footage was not allowed. But one part of the footage shown showed us Harrison Ford as Ross and addressing what I can assume were world leaders about the discovery of adamantium. This got people riled up and excited, and I cannot wait to see how this development unfolds in the future, which I'm probably thinking will probably come into play in the Mutant Saga when we get there. I don't think it'll come into play now. We also got a better look at Red Hulk, who does look fantastic, even though it's completely CGI, of course, but it doesn't look completely horrible like the CGI in recent Marvel movies have. And this led to the cast coming out on stage and Harrison Ford himself legit trying to transform into the Red Hulk right before our eyes. And it's so obvious Harrison Ford could care less about this movie, and that's what makes Harrison Ford so legendary. I talked about Keanu Reeves earlier. I talked about Chris Hemsworth earlier. I didn't mention that I was breathing the same air as Keanu Reeves. I mentioned that for Chris Hemsworth, but when you're breathing the same air as Harrison Ford, you're just mind blown, man. Like, it's so shocking. Like, I was in the same room as Harrison Ford. Like, not to brag, but I'm pretty sure everybody in that room was like, it's Harrison Ford. That guy's a legend. His I don't give a shit attitude may make him a bit peculiar, but it makes him legendary in his press tours, and I guarantee he'll be no different for this movie's press tour. Next, Feige brought out the director of Thunderbolts, and we were shown a trailer, and I gotta say, this movie looks good. Great to see another Marvel movie that's sort of a team up, and I think this is what they've been lacking for a bit. Not just a team up or ensemble movie, but a movie like that is a team up movie with characters we've seen before and care about, that we've already learned about so far here in phases 4 and 5, that people are really latching onto. And the heart and soul of the movie seems like it's going to be Florence Pugh once again. Scenes where they were trying to kill her, ones where they all realized they've been set up. This is a movie that I feel like Black Widow should have been, at least from the trailer. It definitely is taking a more serious tone, and if the final cut maintains that serious tone that it is proposing, it makes me wonder if more Marvel movies will start to do that and adopt that tone. The cast came out as well, including David Harbour in full Red Guardian suit, and that was awesome. Next up, Feige introduced the director of Fantastic Four, Matt Shakman, who was actually supposed to direct the 4th Star Trek movie with Chris Pine and Zachary Quinto, but can't now because of this movie. And the Fantastic Four has now been retitled Fantastic Four First Steps, and Matt apologized for the cast not being there as they were on their way to start filming. But we did get footage, I don't know what you want to call it, behind the scenes look perhaps, of the movie, and it had the old film grain, the cast playing their respective roles, and to have not shot anything and to have what was filmed and shot here was quite impressive. And at the end of this reel, we got a tease for Galactus, and the entire crowd went nuts. But then Feige, this sly bastard, surprised us by informing us that the cast was actually there, and the hall erupted again. They all seem so into their roles, and you can tell that this Fantastic Four movie is going to be the best one yet. But it's not like the other two are some good cinema. You know, the bar isn't very high. After they left, Feige had more tricks up his sleeve. Of course he did, you sly bastard. He started talking about the next 2 Avengers movie and started asking us if we wanted to hear more about them, which was met with an eruption of applause. And here he confirmed the worst kept secret in Hollywood, that the Russo brothers are indeed coming back to direct both Avengers 5 and Avengers Secret Wars, which was talked about first. I'm assuming because it has still retained its original title. So we got a new title card for Avengers Secret Wars, which is Avengers 6. So I think there's also another reason why they were talking about this one first. Now, there was another surprise here, as the Russos said they came back because they were impressed with the Secret Wars storyline in the comics, and that it had Victor Von Doom, but that there was only one person who could play Doom. Cosplayers as the Legion of Doom took center stage before one stepped forward to pull off his mask to reveal himself to be RDJ. Robert Downey Jr. Yes, Robert Downey Jr. is playing Doctor Doom in Secret Wars and Avengers 5, which has been retitled from Avengers the Kang Dynasty to Avengers Doomsday. This was met with a lot of eruption and applause, but also quite an uproar on social media, and especially when you find out the details of what Robert Downey Jr. is actually being paid. It's really bizarre, such the excitement in Hall H, but I mean, of course, they're not going to show nobody's going to show their disappointment in that hall when you announce Robert Downey Jr. is coming back. to the complete bait and switch on social media. Everyone on Twitter was dunking on this, everyone hated it. Everybody's just like, this is such a desperation move for Marvel to get people back on their side. And yeah, I could totally see that. And I have thoughts on this because I think Robert Downey Jr. is actually playing a multiversal evil version of Tony Stark that is going to turn into Victor Von Doom. And I think they're going to be adapting the infamous Iron Man storyline. That's just me personally, and I think it could make for some interesting dynamics. My friends and I were talking about this because you could have Spider-Man showing up and being like, Mr. Stark, you're alive, and then realizing that he's not his Tony Stark, that he's actually an evil Tony Stark, and this Tony Stark, as Victor Von Doom, is trying to destroy the world, take over the multiverse. Because I think in the comics, I'm not well versed in the comics, but I think Doctor Doom in the comics is like the creator of the multiverse. And I know that there's comic panels where he actually kills Kang in the comics, so I have a feeling we might get something like that. That concluded the day on Saturday for us, and we didn't stay for the Kevin Smith panel after that. Nobody did. Why was that in Hall H? I don't know why, but we had one more day. Day 5 wasn't really all that much. It was just kind of a chill day after staying in Hall H that whole day. I had one panel on Sunday. I met up with a fan of mine who was like, hey, yeah, you're going to be there? He went to the panel with me. Really nice guy. Glad we got to meet up. Glad I got some time. I went to a Ninja Turtles panel that was essentially showcasing like concept art, visuals from comic books, like what's coming up on the Ninja Turtles slate, but it was more about like the comic books, what's coming out for the comic books. But they had a great panel there, and one of my favorite actors was there from the original Ninja Turtles movie, Ernie Reyes Jr. If you don't know who he is, Kino from Secret of the Ooze, still the best Ninja Turtles movie. I don't care what you say about Mutant Mayhem. Love Mutant Mayhem. Secret of the Ooze is still an all-time classic, will forever be goated. And I got my picture with Ernie Reyes Jr. I was like, okay, if Kino is at this panel, because I saw everybody going up at the end of the panel to get pictures with all the panelists, like the comic book creators, the storyboard writers, Ernie Reyes Jr. You had the storybook artists there for Mutant Mayhem as well. So everybody was getting pictures. I was like, I'm getting my picture with Ernie Reyes Jr. I want to walk out of here with one picture with a celebrity, and it's got to be him. Like, this is my last day. I haven't gotten anybody else. It's got to be him. And I missed him as he walked out of the panel, but I caught him in the hallway. He was really nice enough to let me take a picture with him, and I told him how much I love Secret of the Ooze, and he was like, oh, thank you, man. Like, I mean, he worked on the first Ninja Turtles movie as well, so he's well versed in all this Ninja Turtle stuff. We were talking about Ninja Turtles for a while. It was really awesome. He's really a chill guy, and I just told him, like, his openings, I love the opening scene of Secret of the Ooze. Like, I think that's probably my favorite part of the movie. And he's like, yeah, man. He's like, that was really fun. That was like a last minute addition. So that was really fun. After that, we had to head home, go to the airport. Getting home was a bit of a nightmare. I'm not going to explain here, but essentially our flights got delayed and we had to change airlines. We made it home. That's all that matters. So that was really my experience at San Diego Comic-Con with all the panels, celebrities, everything that I did. I did check out the exhibit hall. It is massive. You know, I think that's kind of self-explanatory. I don't really have to speak on that. Sunday, it was a bit more chill, so you could walk a little bit more in there. There weren't as many people in there, but it was still jam-packed to the brim. You have a hard time walking in there anyways. But I want to talk about the staff and security because it was super tight, and I think over tight this year. But as I said at the beginning of this video, I kind of understand why now, after learning about something that was reported yesterday. After learning about why the staff and security was so uptight and stingent this year, it's because of this. Like, holy shit. What happened? That's insane. So it makes sense as to why staff, security were on high alert, because that is just the craziest thing I have ever seen. I thought I had seen it all. I attended a San Diego Comic-Con where there was literally 14 people arrested for sex trafficking. That's crazy. So it makes sense this year, but I can't believe that. That's just crazy. That I saw that yesterday and that was a big wow. So It explains a lot, but I still think that security and staff need a little bit more training. But I couldn't get over the fact, and it's like this every year. It was like this in 2019. I just don't remember because it's been 5 years since I've been. This is only my second San Diego Comic-Con. But like, I don't know. Every 5 seconds, somebody's saying you gotta have your badge out, and I felt like saying I wouldn't be in this place if I didn't have my badge. Like, how do you think I got in? Because you have to scan your badge every time you enter it, and you have to scan your badge every time you exit. So it's like I scan my badge every time I entered, but I think they're just making sure that like people have their badges when they're going into certain places, and I get it. But like at the same time, though, it's just like enough, man. Like I have my badge. Why would I be here if I didn't have it? Like, how could I get in? Because you can't. I get that they're trying to do their best to contain the flow of traffic, but I didn't do this. But when you're yelling at people for going the wrong way, you gotta calm it down a little bit. I don't know. It just seemed like it was so disorganized. When you had questions as to where you had to go to try and find certain places, nobody knew what they were talking about. We had to go get our badges. Somebody told us it was in the sales pavilion, and that's what it said in the email. Somebody told us it was in a different place. We were trying to go. My friend is a big collector of pins, so he was trying to go get his pins. They told him it was in one place. They told him it was in another. You can't sit outside the exhibit hall, even though you could in previous years. Like, can you just take a load off for a minute? It wasn't even the fact that staff and security was like, guys, if you don't mind, you just can't sit here. You can sit outside on the curb if you want to do that, but if you don't mind, we just got to keep this area clear. You know, if it was something like that, I probably wouldn't be speaking my mind right now. But when it was staff just going around saying no sitting, you know, like just in that tone of voice, that's where everything kind of get frustrated. And when you're trying to get to certain places, like I had to go upstairs to the escalator, I think to the press room. I was on one side of the convention, but you could get there from that side. You just had to walk all the way down, and the escalator was on the other side. I was like, okay, I'll just take this escalator. I'll try and figure out a way to get around like the ropes and all that. And then you have people looking at you like, badge? Yeah, press. I'm trying to get to the press room. And they finally let you in, but they give you the oddest, weirdest smirk I have ever seen, and it was just so odd this year. I don't know why. Like, it just seemed like it was the most disorganized thing. And when it comes to disorganization, this is probably every year at San Diego Comic-Con. They gotta limit or come up with a new system for Hall H. I think Hall H should be a lottery anyways, or there should be a perk if you're purchasing a ticket or if you're part of the press that just guarantees you a spot every day in Hall H. It shouldn't be on a first come, first served basis. I think that that's really a big miscalculation on their part. I know that that's how they've done it for years. It just doesn't work, I don't think. It's just so confusing. Even when you have the entry pass, like sometimes you'll have it in your hand, like you'll visibly show it and they'll be like, do you have an entry pass or re-entry? But that thing I was talking about, the re-entry pass, whatever, entry pass, re-entry, but whatever. And it's just like, yeah, it's right here. Like there has to be a better system. Like I understand that, or maybe just like, maybe ticket each panel or something. Don't have people camping out in there. Maybe give the press the opportunity to camp out all day and give them the re-entry passes, but I think each and every panel should have its own ticket, or there should be time in between each panel to fill all the seats, and once the panel starts, you shouldn't be allowed in. Maybe Hall H is a little bit different since it's huge. Everybody's walking in and out because there's food right in the lobby right there. But when it comes to other panels, like the Ninja Turtles panel and that Star Wars panel that I missed, once the panels start, you shouldn't be allowed in. I think everybody should clear out. If they want to try and get back in the panel, then maybe they should be given a ticket. But it shouldn't be this thing where, for the Star Wars panel, what I was so frustrated with was that I got there. There was a line. I had a press badge. They don't allow press into other panels. You got to wait in these lines like everybody else does. Hall H is a little different because Hall H has its own press line, but like even then, because I wanted to cover that Star Wars panel and talk about it here in this video, but I just couldn't because by the time I got in, the panel would have been over. So it's weird. Like I asked somebody, I was like, hey, like I have a press badge. Do I have to wait in line? Like I'm trying to cover this for my outlet. And again, rude staff is just like, press waits in line with everyone else, you know. And like, I'm not one to complain about that really, but or like how rude staff is, like because it's like me bitching about it right now. It's like me going on Yelp, leaving companies and restaurants terrible reviews. That's not me, but it's just something this year that I really noticed. And I just think that there's ways to improve upon the system, and I just think that staff and security need to be a little bit more trained in the future, have some knowledge as to where everything is and how to, you know, make the convention go a little bit smoother. And then going back to the lines and all that. Okay, I get having the lines, so you want to fill all the seats. So once all the seats are filled, you gotta, I think you either should give, if you're gonna keep it this way, you gotta give the people who are already in there like some sort of bathroom pass so that they know that you're going to the bathroom. Because I got into the Ninja Turtles panel. I was with one of my friends, so I got out of line. I said, hey, like, let me know when they're in. So while I was in the bathroom, he was let in. And I tried to go in, and then staff stopped me and said, there's a line. And I said I was going to the bed. So they had to keep track more as to who's in line, who gets bathroom passes. Like, I think that that's where the bathroom passes should be given out if you're still doing this type of system. But it just, for me, it just doesn't work. I think once you enter the panels, I think you should be given a bathroom pass, but I don't think anybody should be let in or out unless you're going to the bathroom during the panels. I mean, if I was a panelist, I'd be like, why is the door keep opening? Like, I'm trying to talk here, you know what I mean? Like, just things like that I think could be improved upon to make San Diego Comic-Con better. I know that's how they've done it for years now, but I just think this year, where everything was so disorganized, I just think that my frustration with all that just came right to the front and forefront of my head and my thinking with all that, because it just got mixed in with how poorly trained and manageable the staff was. All of that, the staff and the security and the systems that are in place to get people into these panels, I think just need to be addressed in the future. They probably won't be, because this is the system that works for them, and if it is, then great. But I think that they need to tweak the system a little bit. And I love all these panels. I love going to these panels, and it makes sense. I get it, you can't keep track of 6,000 people, but I somehow they were able to do that in the Deadpool and Wolverine screening in Hall H. They were literally checking names off a clipboard. So there's got to be some tweaks to the system with that. So my experience overall with the staff and security and lines and all that, it was a little bit rough. And speaking of the lines too, like, I wanted to get stuff at booths in the exhibit hall. Within minutes, the line is capped. It's insane, and that's led to a lot of congestion in the exhibit hall. Like, I get that everybody's going to be in lines, but man, like, when you have lines going in like a snake pattern in the exhibit hall, that's not good. You know, they got to fix that up, I think, a little bit as well. I get it. There's 150,000 people walking in the exhibit hall. Maybe not the exhibit hall, but that attend San Diego Comic-Con each year. It's literally it's the hardest job to do, and I get it. And they have their systems. It's worked for them for years. So, I mean, I just think that next year's staff, they need to train a little bit more, give them a little bit more knowledge as to where things are, and just maybe make a few minor tweaks here and there. But essentially, if you have never been to San Diego Comic-Con, that's really what my experience was like. If you are planning on going, that's how the systems for panels, Hall H work. I hope I have answered your questions. This is my first time doing this video, so any tweaks to this video that you can suggest for the future, because every year I go, I'll probably do a video like this, cover everything that I've done. Just let me know in the comments section below. I had a blast, despite some mixed feelings with the staff, security, lines, the way panels were run. It's still a really fun time overall. Just need some tweaks in the system, I believe. So let me know if you did attend San Diego Comic-Con this year, if you can afford to attend San Diego Comic-Con. I have heard that regular public tickets are like $1,900 for one person. If you do plan on attending in the future years, also let me know in the comments below. I hope this was helpful. You guys are the best. Thank you for watching. My name is Alex Madden, and I'll see you at the movies somewhere.